a lot of the women that I work with in coaching are sort of more mature, sort of that 38 onwards. And I'm watching and witnessing and listening to a lot of women that are quite accomplished, but then suddenly feeling unsettled, as though they're not really living their life, even though they're accomplished and achieving and set certain targets. There comes a point in time where we reach a certain age and there's that questioning that comes in. So I really wanted to address that. And, you know, this can be very much, this I suppose is targeted, I suppose, for the women that are in a job and then suddenly go, gosh, am I really doing what I want to be doing, and might want to move into a business. But it'll, you know, and a lot of the motivational speakers, sorry, motorbike going past, a lot of the motivational speakers are very rah-rah about just jump. You know, just let go of everything and just jump and go for it. And I've certainly been there myself in the past, but you get to a stage in life and sometimes circumstance where you can't always just suddenly give up your income and free fall and go for it. The risk feels too great. So I really wanted to cover off on that, because it should not stop women from going for their own story. And I wanted to look at, you know, are you living your own story, or are you living somebody else's? So I wanted to go through the 8 things to consider when stepping into the story that sort of most inspires you. A little bit about myself. Obviously, you know, the lovely ladies that are online tonight know me quite well. But for those that couldn't make it on tonight, you know, hey, Doran. I'm the Director of Inner Expressions, a global women's leadership and life coaching business. I love to empower people. It gives me an absolute thrill to, and I've been like this ever since I was young and can remember, even as a 5-year-old, I remember talking to a Japanese girl that couldn't speak much English and trying to find ways to communicate to her to make her feel comfortable in who she was in the circumstance that she was in. So from a very young age, I've realised I love to watch people become authentic, feel inclusive, but being authentic to who they are and feeling empowered and comfortable. And my why, as you can see on the screen, is my family. So my children, my grandchildren, that's the thing that gets me up every day and gives me that injection as well, because I want to demonstrate to my family why I choose to follow the path of my passion and encourage them to do it. You're also never too old to stop following your passion. They're also my value system. You know, we all have values, and it's important when you're going for a goal to know your why, and everyone addresses the why. But to really fuel it up, it's, well, how can you tie your value system into your why? Because it's about, like a tree planting itself in the earth. You know, you don't have a deep, strong, vast root system, a storm can come and that tree is blown over. So a little bit like with going for our goals and writing, you know, the story of our life and what we want to do with our life, is you need your why, because that's your motivator to get you up every day. But you also need to know your top values. So how does getting up every day and doing what I choose to do is motivated by my why, which is my family and leading by example, but my value system is family, security, sense of freedom. So we need to be able to build that into it. So I just wanted to introduce you to, you know, who I am, where I come from, and what drives me. And that's very much it. So let's have a look at finding out if you're living your story or someone else's story, and there's the intuitive push. So, you know, the question is, do you love the story you've created for yourself? And questions are powerful because they ask us to dig deeper. You know, a lot of people talk about journaling, and journaling isn't Dear Diary. Journaling is the experience of going deeper, and it's that question. So the first question really is, you know, do I love the story I have created for myself? Or do I find myself accomplished, earning either a reasonable wage or a very good wage, but am I happy? Is this what I imagined for myself when I was younger? Does this fit who I am today? Or am I living by somebody else's story? You know, are you following someone else's script? And I was dealing with a client, a coaching client the other day. Now, she's already in her own business and has been in her own business for years. She had a vision when she was younger, you know, of doing what she loved, which was serving people from a health perspective. Also tied into that vision when she was a lot younger was, you know, the freedom that it would give her to actually have her own business and live her own story. And then she found that it actually has become cumbersome. So she started living somebody else's story, and the story that she was living was her parents, which was just work hard. So as she started on the story that was hers, another author came into it, if that makes sense. The author who started to write were her parents. You can call it subconscious story if you like, but her script got mixed up with someone else. So she started on the path that was hers, which was the vision in her youth of serving people, health, well-being. Also, you know, it would give freedom, a bit of balance in life, choice. And then as time went on, the parent story they took charge of the pen at that subconscious level, and she started living somebody else's story woven into her own, and it became a job for her, a job. So the health suffered, relationships suffered, and you know it intuitively that you need to make a change. And how do you know that intuitively something's off kilter? Because the story that she will tell herself will be, well, hold on a moment, I started my own job, my own business. That was my story, that was my dream, that was my passion. But it's become something else. And when someone else starts scripting our story and we haven't realised it, we don't always necessarily recognise and understand it, but the intuition will start to speak to us. And that intuitive feeling is unsettling, frustration. For this particular client, health, and that's happened for other clients of mine as well. Health, the body, and the health well-being will start to call out and say, something's not right here. You're slightly off path. Someone else has taken hold of the pen and writing your script. And just that underlying of frustration. And intuition becomes a little bit of a whole-bodied message. So what do I mean by that? The whole-bodied message means you start having those thoughts over and over and over again. Hold on, this is not what I dreamed for myself. This is not where I want to be. I'm frustrated. You know, the feeling in the body will become the frustration. Life will start to look out of kilter. And then you'll start to tell yourself, oh, just get over it. It's just frustration. You're just stressed. But guess what? Stress starts to happen when you go against the grain. And sometimes going against the grain means you're actually going against your own story, your own passion, your own purpose. And we've all been put here with a gift, with a unique, extraordinary gift. And it's up to us whether we listen to that intuitive nudge. It's up to us to start asking the questions, you know, do I love what I'm doing? Am I fulfilling my purpose? Or am I just doing something that seems to be a reasonable job, and probably is, but a very important role? But is it someone else's role according to someone else's story? Or am I living my passion and purpose? And then what starts to happen, especially in the more mature years, when you get into those late 30s and above, is that feeling of it's too late. I can't take risk. And everybody who's motivating out there is basically saying, you know, jump off the cliff, just go for it, let go. You have to let go and surrender. And it just feels so overwhelming. And going for it doesn't mean you have to put yourself at risk. And as this slide says, you know, your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life. But don't buy into motivational stories that tell you that you have to let go of everything, put your whole life at risk in order to achieve what you want to achieve. So going for it doesn't mean you have to put yourself at risk. Don't jump off the cliff unless you can afford to. But that doesn't mean you can't take a leap of faith. So what can seem like the impossible becomes the possible. You can take measured steps. You can allow yourself the safety net and still create the change. And there's nothing wrong with having a financial safety net. There's so much out there these days, you know, sort of encouraging us to feel lesser than if we don't just take this massive leap. If our goals aren't exponential and massive, it doesn't matter if your goal isn't. You know, sometimes there's something incredibly wonderful in the extraordinary being within the ordinary. Great artists used to paint incredible scenes that, you know, this artwork sells for thousands and millions of dollars now, you know, of women in the street washing clothes and kids playing games. It's not about fast jets. It might be for some, but it doesn't have to be. Sometimes it's about, you know what, I love the ordinariness in my life, but I just want to live my story, my passion, my purpose, and make a leap, but feel safe in that leap as well. And it's all very well maybe when you're younger and you don't have, you know, certain responsibilities. I know I've taken incredible leaps when I was younger, and I've watched clients take incredible leaps. And that's fine if you're able to. If you've got the financial means to just throw it all away, let it all go, you know, put the book on the shelf and start writing a new one, great. But if you can't, you don't have to. So burning that 9 to 5 bridge, or, you know, I've got other clients that have their own business and it's multifaceted. And then there are certain areas that served and it's like now it doesn't. It doesn't mean you suddenly have to give that up and it diminishes your income. But it does mean recognize that that story, what you're doing no longer fits, no longer serves you, and you're yearning for something more. You don't have to suddenly take that away. You don't have to take away the the full-time job to suddenly go for what you know your highest inspiration is, your passion and your purpose. Just the same as if you're actually in your own business already and it's multifaceted and there are areas where you just go, oh my God, this was great, and now it's not fitting my expanded vision. Doesn't mean you suddenly have to cut it out. Don't burn the bridge. You're allowed that income to still be there, but recognize the intuition is calling. You know, the pen's back in your hand and you go, well, okay, what is it that I can create that would be more in alignment with my passion, purpose, intuitive feeling of what I love to do and what I want to do and how I want my life to look, so that you can start making steps, taking steps towards that. You still have your bridge intact. It's not in flames. It's not burnt, because you don't need to create stress, fear, doubt. Doubt at times will always be a bit of a companion and fuel, but it doesn't have to be in terms of, oh my God, I feel like I've jumped off the cliff and I'm falling and I'm going to crash burn. Or I've burnt that bridge. I want to change the mindset for women. And sometimes it's in women that are younger than us, because again, their responsibilities that they've got. I don't want you to sit there and not go for what you most desire. I don't want you to sit there in a rocking chair, and I say rocking chair because I love rocking chairs, at the end of your life. I wonder what would have happened if. But the thing is, so many people are feeding us that it has to be this big risk. You know, burn the bridges. You don't. Keep your bridge intact. Don't add such an overwhelming level of stress, fear and doubt. Don't put yourself and your life and your relationships at risk unless, one, that's just the nature of the beast of who you are, or two, you've got that financial safety net there to do it and free fall and go, well, if it doesn't work, that's fine. But if you need that financial buffer of your job or elements of your business, it's okay. What's not okay is if you give up the dream and you put down the pen and go, I'm not going to write the next chapter. That's not okay, because that in itself will create a disjoint. It will create its own level of stress, its own level of frustration. And it will become a fear that grips you and holds you where you are. So don't need to jump off the cliff unless you can afford to. There's nothing wrong with a financial safety net. Really important to understand that. And burning the 9-to-5 bridge for some can add massive stress, fear and death. It does not have to stop you, though, from moving forwards and into the expansiveness of actually who you are and what you seek. So I suppose the thing is, again, questioning. How do I make what feels like the impossible into the possible? How do I utilize my bridge and get to the other side without burning the bridge? And I suppose one of the questions is, you know, what are you passionate about? So what am I passionate about? Because a lot of people will also go, you know what, I want to be out of my job, or I want to change elements of my business, but I don't know what it is. So the questions that you need to ask yourself are, what am I passionate about? And don't think in terms of a job. Don't think in terms of a business. Don't think in terms of what you need to let go of in order to gain. What is it that you love? So, for example, I can say to myself, you know what, I love empowering people. There is no greater joy for me than to give of myself, my wisdom, if someone sees it as that, my insights, my gifts, and uplifting others. And not according to where I feel like they should be, where they want to be. So this is how I got led years ago into healing and coaching, and now really focusing on the coaching and mindset, which is what's changed my life. But did I know in the beginning? No, I just knew that I am passionate about giving to people. I'm passionate about uplifting others. I'm passionate about them going from feeling like the black sheep to, hey, nothing wrong with being black. Nothing wrong with being different. We're actually all different and unique, and somehow that also connects us. So we need to learn that in this world where it's so full of motivation, it's so full of rah-rah, it's so full of jump and take massive risks, it's so full of just let go and trust. And I'm not saying trust isn't involved, it is, but it can also be measured. So slow and steady in a world that's so fast-paced. It's, you know, Facebook these days is amazing because every second person's up there telling you how you can make your business grow really fast. I call it the latest shiny thing. You know, and I'm working with a new client at the moment who's, you know, got this multi-level marketing business and it's just starting and this amazing product, but keeps flitting to the, you know, the next thing that's seen about how quickly it can be done. It doesn't have to be fast. When you look at a plant that grows, it has a natural growth process to it and it has to send the roots down deep. That takes a little bit of time. There's a whole lot happening when you plant a seed under the soil that you don't see that is happening. So here's a different frustration. It's understanding the growth process and slow and steady. Whacking up a house really fast doesn't make it have strong foundations, secure walls, a watertight roof. So we need to start to understand, what does slow and steady mean? Because you can grow really rapidly. You can leap off that cliff and you can put everything at risk. You can have that momentary adrenaline before you're like screaming from fear and dread, panic. Lack of faith suddenly comes upon you. Or the fact that if we look at everything in nature, there is a growth cycle to it. And part of this is about, you know, coming into your flow. I'm also not knocking anyone that chooses to do the big leap. I'm just saying I just want to address the fact that not everyone wants to do that, feels that they can do that, needs to do that. You know, slow and steady will win the race. But let's look at the fact that we are cyclical beings. Everything is about cycles. You know, tide comes in, tide comes out. Sun comes up, you know, sun retreats and we have the night. We have the seasons. You plant a seed and you want a strong tree, then, you know, it takes time before you even see the shoot come up, and before you know it, the tree is growing and branching out and getting taller and getting stronger, and it's secure, and the storm comes and it can weather it. You can still be the artist and author of your life, but work out, what is your story? What do you want your life, your income, your business, your career to look like? Because sometimes it can be going from one job. Oh, Judy, I might just get you to mute, love.
She was farting.
I know, I can take her out there.
Judy, can you mute? I think I can't find the mute page up. Yeah.
Sorry.
That's all right. You know, it might even be leaving one job to another. I know years ago, and back out in the workforce, and there was a position that I was in that I very clearly knew I had outgrown, and it did not fit my values, it did not fit who I am, and was no longer serving me. And I knew I needed to be out of it. Doesn't mean you have to give up the job. It means start looking for whatever else it is that you need to move into. And if you don't, life will have a way of coming in, cutting you off at the knees and getting you out. So you may as well actually listen to the intuitiveness, feel that sense of knowing as to what's not aligned, what's not working, where you no longer need to be, what's no longer serving you. A little bit like, oh gosh, I'm now living an old story and it's no longer my story that's relevant now or for my future. But you don't necessarily have to jump from that job, put yourself at risk before you find another one. Just start taking action. Become the author of your life and your story and take action to find whatever it is, whether it's another, you know, you're moving into your own business or moving into another position that is aligned with your story. But you need to get clear on what does that look like? Every single detail. What does it look like? How precise you are is important, because that's what you're going to align to. And I can tell you already, there, you know, we look at the past. I did a post about this today. You can, you know, the past is influencing. And we can shift that as we start to recognise it and repattern it and realign it, reprogram it. But the problem is people also get caught in constantly looking at that past. But guess what? There is a future you. The you that has that intuitive desire, that has that intuitive pull to start, you know, taking the pen back in hand and crafting your story, which is your life, which is your passions, which are your values, your heart's desires. So why not start contacting that artist, that author of your life that is already living that story? Why not dare to dream and speak to that person? But you must paint a really clear picture. You must write a really clear story. And if you're already in your own business, any elements of it that don't quite fit, have a look at your crafted story and you'll start to see the correlation of why it doesn't fit. It's very easy to let other people's stories, or if you like, subconscious patterns, come up and weave into our story. So if there are areas in your business or areas in your life, we're talking sort of generally, then if it's not fitting, who does it belong to? And rewrite it, recraft it. Because just like my client that from a very young age knew that she wanted to run her own business, and she knew why, and she knew the freedom, you know, that it was going to give her, she let someone else start moving into that story and change it. And now through coaching, we're realigning it. And it's not how fast you get there, it's knowing that you will get there. Knowing that you absolutely will get there. And if you have the desire and the clarity of what that story looks like, whether it's another job, whether it's, you know, your business, whether it's change within your business, and you're taking action every single day in alignment with that, and you're communicating instead of to your past, you're communicating with that successful future self, because that feeds you the motivation to keep going. And when you don't know what those steps are, you just take a step. You'll end up being moved onto the right path as long as you're in movement. So, you know, when we're a child and we're learning to walk, you know, it's really wobbly and we get up one foot in front of the other and you fall over. You know, but you get up again, one foot in front of the other, oh, you fall over. You can see what it is that you're going towards, you know, whether it's the cup or the toy or whatever it might be. You just keep getting up and moving towards it until eventually you're running around the house, you're grabbing everything that you want. Knowing, because the child knows, eventually I'm going to get there. Eventually I'm going to master this. And you will have learnt skills along the way which strengthen the root system in your life. Have you ever bought a book? I've got a book at the moment that's so old and it's, you know, it's all falling apart and I've got a lacky band around it. Well, then, you know, I've got the beautiful books, the hardcover books that are so heavily set in and bound, and it doesn't matter how many times I turn the pages. They're strong, they're secure. That's what you want to create. And throwing everything away and going for that, and maybe going fast track, doesn't mean it's sustainable. What's important is knowing that you will get there, that you are moving towards that. And if you feel unsure of what to do, as I said, just do something. Choose something. But wake up every day reminding yourself, what do I need to do that it's in alignment with my highest purpose, that's alignment with my why, that's in alignment with my vision? It shouldn't necessarily be in alignment with money. The money will come, the money is an energy. As you fulfill your purpose, as you take the pen back in hand or the brush back in hand and you paint and create and write your story. So you in action, for every step that you take, that which you seek will double the steps it takes towards you. That's why as old stories come up, you recognise them, but you don't turn back and revisit them. You keep looking forward and listening to that future self that's already successful, that's drawing you, that's pulling you through your intuitiveness. When you ask yourself the questions, what gives me a sense of power, purpose, joy? What are my gifts? And I'm just going to keep taking one step, just like that plant does. A bit more growth, a bit more growth, a bit more growth. Then there's that pressure, breaks through the soil. So you in action, and that which you seek will take double the steps towards you. It's a given. Whoops, we've gone backwards. Sorry, guys. So creating from that abundance mindset, you can move towards that which you desire and have a masterful mindset or a scarcity mindset. The masterful mindset is, again, almost, you know, listening to, knowing if I have a desire to create change, to live the story according to who I am, my values, my passions, my purpose, then you're already successful in your future. It is a given. The scarcity mindset usually comes because you're still locked into the past. You're listening to the old, which is why you handed over your storytelling to somebody else. Does that make sense? So you need to create from an abundance mindset, which is in my future now moment, I'm already living this story. It's like those that create movies. You know, they write the script and the creators are already seeing it up on the screen. They're already seeing it as successful. They're already seeing the end result. Now, when you're doing this, especially if you're having to make changes within your business so it more aligns back with your story, or if you're in your 9 to 5 and you want to move to a different job, or you're in your 9 to 5 and you want to move into having your own business. It's so important to find someone, coach, mentor, someone that has your back, that picks you up when you doubt, because it's very easy in this modern day technology to be on Facebook and, you know, all the things that are there and see all these people that seem to be sudden overnight successes. But just remember, all of that's illusionary. You actually have no idea whether their stories are real, whether their success is real. All that's important is your own. All that's important is your own story, your own results, your own steps. And this one's really important, your own pace. The pace that fits for you. But that pace does not have excuses. The pace has action, not excuses. And it's a little bit like being on the freeway. You know, I was on the freeway going into the city early the other morning for an event. Everyone's weaving in and out and racing, and every single time I always end up catching up to those that are racing and I surpass them. Slow and steady on the freeway is my thing. Now, that doesn't mean I stay stuck behind everybody, but I'm not manic, moving from lane to lane and up and, you know, I'm racing to the lights. It's the same as the people that pass me on the, you get to the lights and I end up right next to them. And I always laugh to myself because I think slow and steady, I'm at the speed limit. I'm just pacing myself out. They've been racing ahead of me, but somehow I end up equal to them and then passing them. Great metaphor for life. And just remember the plant that grows. And if it's not happening fast enough, ask yourself, what are my expectations? Am I allowing limitations in mindset, thought and feeling and action? Am I making excuses? Or is this the perfect pace? Am I making progress? So it's not about it's not happening fast enough. Is it happening? Is it unfolding? That's the question to ask yourself. Is it unfolding? And if it's unfolding, but for whatever reason you need it to happen faster, what is it that I need to do? What is it that I need to create? What is it that I need to align myself to in thought, feeling, and action that could speed this process up? But they're very clear thoughts, like someone writing that script. It's not that feeling of I'm a failure, it's not happening fast enough, because if you've got that going on, you've got an old story going on, someone else's, you know, someone else is scripting it. So you need to understand that difference. If there's that emotional self-beating up, you're still letting someone else's story influence you. But if it's, I'm taking actions, I'm holding the vision of my goal, I know that I'm masterful and that I can do this, but I need it to happen faster for whatever reason, then start thinking, throwing it out there, what is it that I need to do? What is it that needs to come in that can speed this process up? And being the master of perseverance, you always need perseverance, whether you're free fall or not. But in particular, for women, like I said, that are working in, you know, in the job and they want to leave it and go to their own business, or to another job, or in their own business and wanting to change elements, you have to persevere. Challenges will come along. Hiccups will come along. But you need to keep communicating to that self that's already succeeded, that's already at the top of that mountain. And get that support. Get that inspiration. Have your coach that keeps you, you know, aligned with your mindset and moving. If I didn't have a coach, you know, it would be so, and I'm very, very positive and self-motivated and all the rest, I would still be tripping myself up as well. So if it's not happening fast enough, make sure you've got that coach that keeps you developing that mindset, that keeps you aligned to that future. Listen to TED Talks, listen, read, whatever it might be, to keep you strong and persevering. Do not give up. Because if you've had that desire, that feeling, that thought, and you're in growth, look at childbirth. Childbirth is not easy, but the reward at the end of it means everything. And the thing that helps you with perseverance is, you know, what does my life look like when I'm there? Talk about it. Write about it. Now, talk about it to people that are in alignment with it. I'll sit with my husband all the time and talk about, oh my God, life's amazing. We're doing this. We're free to travel. I'm free to go see my kids whenever I want, when, you know, one son lives elsewhere. We did this before we were living together and manifesting a house. We used to talk about, oh, beautiful townhouse, 2 stories, French doors, a workroom for me at the front, right at the front, so it doesn't, you know, we spoke about it as if. If you're not clear on what that end result is going to look like and feel like, you can't get there. Are you really clear on what your life will look like when you're there? So again, you can keep drawing on that feeling. It's a little bit like when you look back at old photos. Oh my God, recently I was having a beautiful lunch with a girlfriend and we hadn't seen each other for over 20 years. The house where she lives now is, you know, very different house to where she was walking, but looking at things that were so familiar. Certain stones, certain, you know, statues and things that I hadn't seen for over 20 years. And the minute I look at it, it just invokes a feeling, a memory. Very fond feelings and memories, very strong. So what you need to do is get so clear on what your life will look like when you're there. Talk about it, write about it, live it, and visualize short scenarios of what you're doing. Write about it. Write a letter to a friend dated in a year or 2 years' time and get incredibly descriptive. The more you align with what your life will look like when you're there, the more it will give you the drive and the perseverance to keep going. And also stop and have a look at how far you have come. So when you feel like it's not happening fast enough, stop and go, what have I actually achieved? What steps have I already taken? I did this about 6 months ago, hit my own level of frustration. Oh, it's not happening fast enough. And suddenly I went, what are all the things that I've learned? What are all the things that I've achieved? And my list got longer and longer and longer. And suddenly it's like, oh my God, I've done more than I realized. So sometimes you need to stop, look at the top of the mountain, but not stay focused on it, then stay focused one foot in front of the other. But there's also another time to stop and look back. And you'll see that you've come further than you realized. You've achieved more than you thought. And there's that moment to acknowledge, celebrate, and that will motivate. That will motivate you to keep taking the steps. But you need to know very, very clearly what your end result will look like. And the more you align to that, you'll start to feel it and continue to achieve it. But then you can't stay there too long, or you'll feel like you're too far from it. So tap into it, look at it, feel it, and then come back. Okay, when I go walking, you know, I'll look up to where I'm going, and then it's like I'm looking 3 paces in front of me. I'll do that. Metaphorically stop, look back again. What have I achieved? What have I been doing? Because sometimes you get so used to, and the new things that you're moving into, the new way that you're creating and scripting your life, in the beginning seem unreal, different, new, and then it integrates and it feels normal. So then we underestimate. So to recap, asking yourself, am I living my story? Am I happy with my life? Am I living to my fullest potential? Or am I following someone else's script? Am I feeling that intuitive push to make a change? And you'll know it because thoughts will keep coming into your head. You'll start hearing things, you'll feel that frustration, continual. I don't mean a day of a frustration, we can all have that, but that ongoing underlying frustration. It might be, God, I once loved this. I once loved what I was doing. Now I'm feeling like, oh, I'm meant for more. You don't have to jump and free fall and crash land on the rocks. You can do a slower transition and keep your income sitting there as you make a move, as you make a change, and have your financial safety net. Don't have to burn all those bridges. Remembering to get clear on what is your story. And if you're not sure what that is, just say to yourself, if money were no object, what would I do? What makes me feel alive? Because if you start talking in terms of finances first, you'll not get there because you've not found your passion. You've found a lack of belief in financial wealth and abundance for yourself, which will come naturally as you align to what brings you joy, what brings you passion, and how you feel like you can serve out in the world. You know, what can you contribute? And remember, it's not how fast you get there, It's knowing that you will. If you're unsure of what to do, just write down what brings you joy, but don't sit there. Keep taking steps, because life has a way. If you veer off the path, you'll come back. You'll come back. You'll come back. But as long as you are in action, taking some action, you're going to have to stay really aligned and masterful with your mindset, and keeping that aligned to the success that's already there in your future now moment. You notice I use that word future now moment because it says it's the future, but it's now. It's talking to me now, rather than looking to the past of how the past has affected me. However the past has affected you, you'll start feeling and you'll see those limitations. You'll go, I'm not scripting this. Let me talk to my future self. Myself that's already successful, that's already broken those chains and created change. When your story is so clear, when it's so clear, you will become the master of perseverance, because you will know that you will face some challenges because you're letting go of that old and you're taking back the paintbrush and the pen and crafting your own story. And when you know exactly what it looks like, it will keep driving you. And that's the abundance mindset. The abundance mindset isn't the financial wealth, it's the abundance of your life. What is it that you need? Now, finances might be one of it, but what does that serve, and how does that serve your why, and how does that serve your highest values? How does it serve you to continue to do what you need to do to give back to your community, to live your highest passion, to share your gift? So abundance is bigger than the monetary gain. The monetary gain will come. So I run a workshop called Power Up Your Life. I've been running this for many years now. Next one's August the 10th. What we do is we look at this, and I've had women that have come for 5 years running, women that have done a lot of personal development. But what we do is we create new and positive paradigms. So we look at those stories that are written by somebody else that are still living out within you, and we unearth them, because once they're unearthed, they can't have that same power. And then we realign them to your new vision, and we get really clear on what that vision is for you without those limitations, without those limiting stories, beliefs, thoughts and feelings. We also examine the language, because a lot of the time we're speaking and not actually hearing what we're saying. We're not hearing that it's someone else's story actually coming through us in our language, because it's become so familiar. So we unearth and understand sabotage and how that works, because when you understand it, you can disempower it. The keys to writing your powerful goals and aligning with your values, and the importance of aligning the values to those goals. Creating a power poster. A lot of people call them vision boards. We cover off on why we call it a power poster, how and why it works, how to create them where they do work. And a lot of people just throw too many images on, and that becomes their life. They need space to breathe, space for family, space for growth. We do life scripting, the importance of that, and crafting, basically overall crafting your future. So the next one is August the 10th. So anyone that's interested, please message me and I will hold the very early bird price for you. I obviously do one-on-one monthly coaching. It's so important. So, you know, what you get by achieving your goals is not as important as what you become and who you become by achieving them, which is why we continually then set new goals, because it's about us expanding into and being supported into our greatest potential. I'm certainly not who I was a year ago or 2 years ago, 5, 10, 15 years ago. And I know that with the coaching and support and the changes that I choose to take, I will not be in another year's time who I am sitting here today. I will be more than, more expansive. I also do one-on-one coaching in 3-month blocks. And I've got names down at the moment for a new 6-month coaching group for those that don't want to have such a big outlay. I keep the groups very, very small, but still completely impactful. And sometimes it can be great being part of a group coaching. I won't take more than 6 to 8 people. It's 2 one-hour sessions a month for the 6 months. And the great thing about group coaching can also be that you get to share and learn and exchange with others. And as a way of saying thank you so much for being on tonight, and for those that couldn't make it online, I will be sending this as it's being recorded. So if also you'd like a copy of the recording to go back over and see what triggers for you and what lights up for you, what insights you have, then please let me know and I can email it to you. But I'd love to give you a 30-minute power call with me. So if interested in that power call, no, I'm not going to be selling you my programs because I'm all about what value I can give you. Then please, by all means, email me or private message me, and I'd love to give you a 30-minute power call, coaching call with me to see where I can further help align you and keep you moving forwards and expanding into your greatest potential. So I don't know if you have any questions. If you do, please unmute yourself and ask. And if not, I'm happy also to take questions privately if on Messenger if that's what you need, or address it in our 30-minute power call.
Well, I just wanted to say, Kay, that was wonderful and really insightful, and yeah, thanks so much for that. And I'll be personal messaging you. And thank you. It was fantastic.
Thanks, Justine. I really appreciate the feedback. I'm glad you got some value.
Oh, no worries. Thanks, ladies.
Thank you.
Okay, I'd just like to say that was awesome. I love it. And I've got a whole page of notes. I've been writing.
My whole thing is about giving you some value. So
yeah, it was excellent, really good. Some of the things I remember you telling me a long time ago when I did one of your workshops, and I went, oh yeah, you know, you hear things and then you forget, then you hear it again, you go, oh yeah. So it takes repetition sometimes for things to stick. But yeah, it was fantastic. I really enjoyed it, and thanks for inviting me.
Oh, look, you're so welcome, and thank you for coming on board, and I'm glad you got value. And, you know, I think that's a really important comment, Judy, that sometimes, you know, it's not that we're hearing something new, but we're hearing it in a new way or being reminded to come back and realign to it. And that's why I love to work with motivated women and women that have already done development, because, again, so open to it, and also to go, you know what, a lot of what is being taught is not going to be new. It's just going to be that reigniting of it and going, oh my gosh, I've put that one back, you know, that's been sitting at the bottom of the toolkit. I need to dig deep and bring that one back up again. So thank you for that sharing, because that's really, really relevant. And that's what happens a lot of the time. And I know also when, you know, I get coached monthly. I believe any good coach should be getting coached. And a lot of the time what's said to me is, I know. But I have a saying, and that is, I'm coming to know it if I'm having to be reminded of it. I absolutely know it when I'm completely aligned and living with it. So thank you. Bless you, and thank you for being on. And again, if you want that 30-minute power call, please just private message me. But have a beautiful night, ladies. Thank you.
Thanks, Kay. Thanks, ladies.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. See ya. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, Casey. Bye, Casey. What was she doing? Is it